everyone, welcome to the B-Side Breakdown, Episode 5. My name is Brett Johnson, and I am your host. The B-Side Breakdown is a podcast where I talk with other artists, musicians, and songwriters about a song they've written, previously released or not, that is particularly meaningful to them, and I try to get deep into the why behind it. Today, I get the privilege of talking to my friend and multi-instrumentalist, Nick Larsen. I originally know Nick as a drummer. He's just absurd on the drums. If you ever get a chance to listen to some of his older stuff that he'll mention, please go look it up. But he's also a fantastic guitar player, singer, songwriter, and wrote this really awesome song called Moving Past that we're going to discuss. So let's get into it. Here is Moving Past by Monolog. All right, and that was Moving Past by Monolog. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be back with Nick Larsen. Stay with us. All right, and we're back. So let's bring in Nick and hear what he has to say about the song Moving Past. Hey, Nick, how's it going, man?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for taking some time to chat with me about this wonderful song that I had never heard and had no idea that you had written. It's not to gush on it too much before we start talking, but man, as soon as I heard it, I'm like, why isn't this all over the radio? I love it. I mean, it's such a great song, and thank you so much for bringing it to this forum.
Wow, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, when I first heard it, it was really interesting to try to, knowing you and as long as I've known about you and as long as we've been more in close contact, I've been thinking about, did you play on the instruments? What did you start writing it with? I just have all these different questions for you. But before I go into all the things that I'm interested in knowing about, again, the point of this is for you to share with us and everybody who's listening, what is it about this song that's particularly meaningful to you? And then do you want to talk about it?
Do I want to talk about it? That's hilarious. I think to answer the initial question of why is it particularly important, when you asked me to go back and think about the song that held the most meaning or meant the most thing that I had actually written, as a guy that's played drums in numerous bands over the last several decades and done other stuff outside of just drums in bands too, I had to really think about which one that I had so-called full creative control over, that I was the most proud of, and Moving Past came up really quickly for me. The shortish version of the story is essentially I was going through a divorce, and 10, 12, 13 years ago, something like that. And my therapy became playing guitar, and for the duration of that life experience, which was a couple years long, I probably played guitar 90% more than I was playing drums, and I was playing drums pretty much full time in 2 bands at the time, practicing twice a week.
Wow.
So I'd literally come home and I went and spent some money on a nice brand spanking new Guild acoustic, and it was in my living room in the duplex that I moved into. And I just come home and play guitar every single day. And before I moved into that duplex, I moved in with a friend of mine for a month, and Reclaim, which is another song on the Monolog EP that I put out, was the one that kind of kicked it all off. I wrote all the music for it in like 10 minutes, one of those things, and thought maybe I should do something with that. So story unfolds, I wrote a bunch of material and kind of chronologically put it start to finish on the record, basically from the start of the dissolvement, if you will, of that relationship and marriage to the end of it, from catastrophic to pissed off and going through all the emotions. And Moving Past was the last one that kind of came up. And I had been messing with a lot of open tunings, and not because of any particular reason. Yeah, they're easier to play, but B, I just like how stuff sounds when you're playing 2, 3, or 4 strings that are all the same note, but with different timbre to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I was using a capo a lot and just messing around with that, and Moving Past kind of just came up, and it was one of 2 on the record where it was like I sat down and I hammered out the pieces and the verse and the chorus and all the other little pieces. At that time, I was way behind the times and doing all this shit on a cassette 4-track.
Nice.
And not like a 4-fader one, like the original Porta Studio. I actually got it from Shane Baskerville. I bought it from him probably, 20 years ago, and really used it a lot. But I always appreciated the way that sounded. It was almost a little Elliott Smith-esque, if you will,
Sure.
Where everything was like super garbly and shitty sounding, but it added a lot of raw stuff to it. And I was sitting there with a $10 microphone in front of my TV in my living room demoing this out. So I would stacked all the parts and everything, and went into the studio and had the guitar parts. I think there's 3 guitar parts. There's a piano part in there, did bass, drums, and when I wrote the vocals, like the melody came to me right away, the lyrics came to me, and it's the one that I go back on. Even at that time was probably the strongest one, because I think I kind of settled into what was my, I would call it my sound. That sounds lame and egotistical, but it felt the most comfortable. And
Sure.
everything that I wrote after that never got recorded or released sounded a lot like that. And that was also the one that a lot of people just would hear all 8 songs that were on there and be like, that's a really good song. Why did you put that one last? Which always seems to be the thing. But again, chronologically, it made the most sense because it was about all this stuff in life that kind of beats the shit out of you. In this case, a relationship and all the emotional turmoil and the ups and downs and all that stuff. How eventually you just work through it and you move past that stuff, and it's always a piece of you. It's a piece of your story. It's a piece of the puzzle, but eventually you move past. And I feel like there's a glimmer of hope that exists in the sound of that song.
It really does. And that's really, yeah, man, that's cool. Thank you for sharing all that, because I figured it was something related to that. One, I didn't know that you had released it and that it's the last song on that record. So now I have to go get that record. But the other part of it, it's just really cool to hear that you did all the instruments in the studio, how you kind of came about it, that you were doing this chronological, and it sounds like a really intense, creative, cathartic experience to help you really process and work through what was happening in your life at the time, which to me, I totally understand.
Yeah.
When you talked about the 4-track, immediately I had visions of a Tascam cassette 4-track that I had back in the 90s. It didn't happen to be one of those, was it?
It was. I mean, it's the two fader one where you can only record two things at a time. So,
right.
I was, not that I ever needed for what I was doing to do more than that, but I had this little Sony stereo mic that I bought to use with a mini disc player, full disclosure.
Mini disc, yes.
And you could switch it between, I think, 90 and 120 degrees spread, but it was a stereo mic. So I set that wedge it under my record player. So it was like pointing at the guitar and then play it in the living room. And I still have piles and piles of songs or even song ideas that never got turned into anything. But that's how I would do it. So, and the duplex I lived in, the basement was unfinished. So I actually had a drum set up down there. So when I was getting ready to record this stuff, I just threw that mic up and tracked drums for some of the stuff so I could see what it would be like, because a couple of the songs were a little more drum centric.
That's so cool that you were using all of that in 2009-ish, 2008?
Yeah, 8, 9, 10, something around there.
Cool. What studio did you end up going to finally record it all?
My friend Dave West has a studio in his basement. He had a little indie label called Catlick Records.
Okay.
And there's some stupid name for it. I can't remember what the name of the studio was, but I did it all. He and I did it all. He tracked out everything or recorded it all for me. And he was kind of part of that process, and we were really good friends and still are to this day. So he had a Pro Tools rig and really nice amps and all the toys that you would need. I of course barely used any of those because
sure.
Then I want to say 90% of what was on that EP was all done and recorded on acoustic. There was a couple that had electric, but he had some orange amp and a half stack, so I used that and an old P bass and then some drum setup. And it was just kind of a nice like home studio vibe, so I could really get into it, because there was a couple nights with a couple songs where it was like I would show up to go do something and I'd have to leave for a half hour because I'd lose my shit emotionally, and I have to like get myself together to go in there and do it. So it was a very raw time, but on the flip side, a very cathartic process.
Yeah, and just the way you said that, I mean, you're playing drums full time in 2 other bands, and you're playing guitar 90% compared to what you're playing drums. That just sounds bananas, and like there was a lot happening in your life at the time anyway, and just trying to pull all that together to make it work. And then still just what I love about that whole story, it just sounds like this swirling, I don't know, it just feels like something is swirling and it's manic kind of happening all at once. But then there's this, like you said, the hope in this, there's a calm in the song. That of calming vibe that it produces that I just did not expect. And it's just so soothing. I mean, it's like this really soothing and comforting idea of letting go and knowing when you're moving past where you were in a relationship with somebody else. And it's just how we grow and evolve and outgrew the situation or whatever that was. That's what I took away from it. It just reminded me of other relationships I've been in. And when you kind of come to that realization and that understanding, and it surely didn't sound like, it just didn't sound hostile, resentful, angry, or anything like that. It just sounded really loving and matter of fact of just, I keep moving along and I keep moving past you. And that hook is just ridiculous. I'm just like walking around like singing it all the time. And I'm like, what the fuck, you know? But it's awesome, man. If there's, is there any more you want to talk about specifically about the song or any part of what it did or how it evolved or what it led to?
You know, I kind of touched on like it being the catharsis for what I figured out was my sound, because the EP,
Yep.
to anybody that had heard it, I mean, there was a lot of different styles on it, and none of that was intentional. I don't even think I was aware of it. I remember my friend Rob listening to it and being like, man, that's cool. It's kind of like this one's really rocky and this one's really folky and this one's really chill and this one's really depressing. And I'm like, dude, they're all depressing. But anyway,
Yeah.
well, actually, I take that back. They weren't all. Almost all of them were.
Sure.
But even with that said, it was like I think that kind of led me, and that song maybe specifically led me to like believe that I could do that thing. And what I mean by that is, at that point, I'd been playing drums for, I mean, that I was in my early 30s then, so I've been playing drums my whole life and never had really. I was pigeonholed myself into being a drummer, not a musician, which was my fault, and that kind of proved to myself that like, no, dude, you know, you've been arranging stuff, you've been helping write and do all this stuff in bands for, at that point, well over a decade. So it helped me to see that I could do that. It also showed me that I'm still way more comfortable playing drums, because I remember I probably did half a dozen solo shows. Most of those were just me on acoustic or sometimes electric guitar. And then I think I did one or two with my friend Sean from Edward the Confessor. And the amount of nerves, I give kudos to anybody that's able to stand on a stage, like just stand up there and play in front of people. I always say I've got the easier job because I'm sitting down and hidden behind a drum kit most of the time. So if I'm freaking out, nobody knows it. And if I pass out, at least I don't have that far to fall. But I kind of, that whole experience was like, okay, you can do this, and like you have the skill set to do it, but it's not my. I kind of made the decision of like, you can't do everything. You got to pick what you want to do or where you want to focus your efforts. So after all of that, after doing those things, and life changed a bit for me too. After that, I kind of just focused my energy back towards helping write and drumming and all of that, and laid off all of the singer-songwriter stuff, so to speak.
Yeah, it makes sense. Well, hey, we're going to take another quick break and we'll be back with more with Nick Larsen. Please stay with us. All right, we are back with Nick Larsen. Hey, Nick, what record is that song on and where can people find it?
It's buried deep, deep, deep in Bandcamp. The record, I mean, the project was always called Monolog, Monolog, which was representative of mono being singular. So it was just one person, and log, LOG. It was like me logging what was going on in life, or a singular log of songs.
Absolutely.
And the name of the album was What You Once Were.
Awesome. I'll make sure to post a link up so people can look for that on Bandcamp and find that release. I look forward to getting that myself. So beyond that, what else are you working on? What do you got coming up?
So I have another project that most people that know me are aware of called ExactlyNo. It's a 2-piece rock duo with my good friend Ted Anderson and I, and we've been doing that for 6-7 years. I have 2 full lengths out. We're in the process of finishing up a new single. We just released a new single about 6 weeks ago, and we have another one that we're trying to wrap up here in the next month or so, and then we'll probably push that out this fall. And then we're just really working hard on writing new material right now, and gonna hit the studio, maybe get a handful of stuff to put out another EP in 2023. So that's the main focus. Edward the Confessor, my other band, we have 3 EPs out, and that band actually started almost exactly at the same time as the Monolog project did. And we have 3 EPs out that we're all very proud of, and we have a 4th one that's in the mixing process right now. It actually started kind of almost I'm going to say I tracked drums on it 5 years ago. And then we did the rest of the drums like a year after that. And then the pandemic hit and slowed everything down and life got in the way. So we're trying to wrap all that up and get those songs out to the masses too. And then those are the two main things. I, help out my old friends in modeling and play drums with them every once in a blue moon when they need a sub. And then due to the, I'll call it personal encouragement maybe of this podcast coming up and just kind of the evolution of life and the moving past remark, meaning to me, like, people tend to always go back into the past and get stuck there and then live in that space. I really try not to do that a lot. Mm-hmm. However, I'm going to probably take this whole thing and go completely re-record this whole song. Maybe change the arrangement a little bit, but really like take it to the 10-year later level. And there may be strings on it. There may be an orchestra on it. I don't know. But it's, for some reason, I have the desire to take this and take this song, reimagine it a decade plus later and be like, if you had the time and a little better resources without all of the extra stuff in the way of doing it and a better studio to do it in, what would it turn out like? So I think we're going to find that out here sooner or later.
And in fact, we did find out sooner or later. In fact, sooner. Here is the updated, reimagined version of Moving Past. All right, and that was the reimagined version of Moving Past by Nick Larsen. Now I'm going to cut back to the original interview before this new version was done, and we'll pick up the conversation back with Nick. Oh, that's great, man. Yeah, I totally understand that too. There's a couple songs that have floated around in sort of my back catalogs for decades where, I played them in bands when I was 23 and then kind of reimagined it, a little bit in my 30s and then kind of redid it again not too long ago. And it's just one of those until it just never felt like it was, for me, those songs never felt like they were completed or whatever it was that could be fully realized just hadn't happened yet, but it was as great as it could be at that time, But I totally understand that, and that's awesome. I'm super excited to hear the output of that whenever you get it done, as well as everything else, man. You are incredibly busy. You got a lot going on, and that's really, really exciting to hear. It's been so long for me since I've had an opportunity to really dig into, 5 bands at once and just really, just kind of really throw myself creatively into all that. So in turn, it's super inspiring for me to want to branch out and do more kind of in different veins and different styles. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you.
Awesome. Again, everybody, I've been talking with Nick Larsen from ExactlyNo is his most current project, Monolog and Maudlin, some old bands reimagining the song Moving Past that we just played for you on the show. And I'll post up all the links on how to get a hold of Nick if you want to stay in touch with him and keep following him on social media or anywhere else. And Nick, thank you so much for taking the time. And I hope you, I just can't wait to hear the results of your next studio efforts.
Awesome. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
You bet.
Three Crows Club presents B-Side Breakdown.
All right, and that wraps up episode 5 of the B-Side Breakdown. I want to thank Nick Larsen for coming on to talk about his song Moving Past. I also want to thank Carrie Bozel and Adam Coulong for helping me put together the jingle you hear at the beginning and the end of this episode. We have a couple more episodes for Season 1 in 2022 featuring Brian Larson and another with John McEwen from the band Dead History. We also will start out Season 2 in 2023 with the band Megan and Shane, which is an Americana country band based out of Nashville, Tennessee. The background music you're hearing right now comes from the Search for Animal Chin legendary skateboard video put out by Paul Peralta. It's called Chin Ramp 2 by the A&B team. We thank you so much for sticking around and listening, and make sure that you subscribe to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We hope you have a safe rest of the year. We'll talk to you soon.